What's going on, guys? So I reached back to my friends and followers on Instagram and I asked them, what's your favorite fragrance for springtime? Simple, easy. It can be designer, it can be high-end luxury, it could be a cheapie, it could be something discontinued, which made it on here, believe it or not. Something discontinued that I was shocked how many people mentioned. I agree, but I was surprised. And then only one that I don't actually have that I've never even really heard of. I've heard of the brand, not this specific fragrance, and it got mentioned a lot. Enough to make the top 10, because there's stuff like Nishane Hasavat that got mentioned a few times, and Chanel Laurent Sport, and like there's some real hitters for springtime that just didn't get mentioned quite enough. That some of these will surprise you they're here, and some of these won't surprise you that they're here. But I've got an interesting list of spring fragrances as voted on by my followers on Instagram. So let's talk about it. Stay tuned. So we're going to start off with the one that I don't have, because I've never heard of this. It's a Kenzo fragrance. I've heard of Kenzo Power. I've heard I would enjoy Kenzo Power. It's on my radar. But Kenzo Power, I'll have it on screen. I've never heard of this fragrance. According to what I'm seeing online, main accords, the top 5 accords are floral, aromatic, amber, warm, spicy, and citrus. Powdery, soft, spicy, fresh spicy is down there a little bit. So apparently it's quite the spicy, slightly powdery floral fragrance. So I'm very intrigued by this. Apparently it came out back in 2008. Olivier Polge. It's interesting. The breakdown, I could see why there's so much spicy accords going on here. The top is coriander, cardamom, and bergamot. The mid is flowers. The base is tolu balsam, labdanum, and cedar. I've never tried this fragrance. I've never heard of this specific Kenzo fragrance before. But believe it or not, I want to say it got like 11 mentions or something like that. Like it was a lot. It was one of the like top 5 most mentioned fragrances. So, I mean, hey, videos like this, asking IG, is the whole reason I grabbed Hawass from Rasasi. And I absolutely love that stuff. I wore that several days in a row at the beginning of this week at the recording of this video. So apparently this is something that I have to try, because when enough people say it, it's probably something I need to try. So I'm going to need to see about securing a bottle of Kenzo Power and trying it out, because I do like floral fragrances. I love very spicy fragrances across the board. Soft, fresh, warm, don't matter. If it's spicy, I'll probably like it. This encompasses both, and there's a little bit of tolu balsam to add kind of a balmy, creamy nature to it. That every time I see that, it adds a balmy creaminess to the fragrance. So I'm actually quite excited about this fragrance. And apparently, according to Instagram, this is a serious fragrance for the springtime. Now, this is actually the most, I'm starting off as far as the ones I have in my possession, the most mentioned in that particular questionnaire, I guess you could say. That is the original Prada L'homme. I had just wore this the day before I posed this question to Instagram, and it was, the first answer was Prada L'homme. The fourth answer was Prada L'homme, and then so on. It continued to go from there. It got almost 20 mentions. Man, it's such a good fragrance. The best soapy iris out there, because nobody does soap like Prada. You've heard me say it many times. I'm sure I'm not the only one that says that and thinks that and feels that way. So you're going to get some spiciness here. There's a little bit of a peppery cardamom type of spice here. It does perform surprisingly well on my skin. This one is kind of a sneaky projector. You can overwhelm you. It's known to be some super safe office king, but you can overwhelm if you spray this one heavy. You really, really can. This one pops off of my skin. It may just be me and my skin with this particular fragrance, but it kind of screams off of my skin in the first 2 to 3 hours. Like if I was to spray this 8 to 10 times, I think I might fill the room. I never do more than 6 sprays because I really don't need to. It performs really well. Easy 8 hours. And like I said, pretty damn heavy projection in the first 2 to 3 hours with a, mild trail following after the projection tones down. Nothing serious in the trail and sillage, But the projection, like I said, very surprising. Every time I wear it, it still, to this day, surprises me. Such an enjoyable scent profile. The hype is real on this one. If you've yet to get your nose on it, yes, I completely agree with all the votes it got on Instagram, because I agree that it is a wonderful, wonderful springtime fragrance, because you're going to have some milder warm weather. You're going to have some milder cool weather. You're going to get a little bit of both, and this rides the line of doing well in the heat and doing well in the cold. So ideal for the spring, according to Instagram, and I completely agree. One of the best for spring is Prada L'homme. Next, I was surprised to see this one get, not necessarily surprised to see it get mentioned, surprised to see it get mentioned enough to crack the top 10 and make the video. I haven't wore this fragrance in a very long time. I sprayed it when I was gathering the fragrances after I was tabulating what was going to make the video. And yeah, John Varvatos Artisan Pure. Not one you see too many people talk about. I believe it's discontinued. I'm not 100% certain, but I want to say it's discontinued. Still very sought after. A lot of people enjoy this one. This is even more inoffensive than Prada L'homme, in my opinion. Citruses, mild greens, mild woods. Very inoffensive fragrance that's a solid performer. It's not really weak on my skin. It's like a 5-6 hour fragrance for being so fresh. And being a John Varvatos fragrance, that's actually very good for this brand. The quality's there. It's got a little bit of a petitgrain type of smell going in there, that mild green, herbaceous feel. Love a good petitgrain note. This has a lot of greenery going. It does. I don't think it gets enough credit for how mildly green this fragrance actually is, because it's got so much playful, watery, airy citrus to it at the same time. It's very easygoing, white linen, white t-shirt type of fragrance. Great in the heat. Not just good for the spring, definitely really good in the summertime too. I don't know how easy it is to find a bottle these days, but I'm glad to have it, and it's one that I need to revisit. I have so many fragrances I need to revisit. It's been a while since I wore it. Smelled great when I sprayed it a minute ago. Smelled great when I just sprayed it for the video. It just smells great. That's why it got enough mentions, according to Instagram. And I mean, hey, I can't argue with it. One of the best for springtime is apparently John Varvatos Artisan Pure. This one I was hoping would make it. I would have been disappointed if it wouldn't have got mentioned enough, because this is one of my personal favorites for spring, and I'm going to wear it over the next several days because I haven't been wearing it. And I myself think it's awesome for the spring. That is last year's flanker, an Acqua di Gio line, Acqua di Gio Profondo Lights. One of my favorite designer releases in the last several years. This took a great fragrance in Profondo and made it even better, in my opinion. Obviously, it doesn't perform as well, but it dials up the greenery, tones back a little bit of that synthetic aquatic hit that you got from the Aquazone note that they created, that Alberto Marias created for the original Profondo. Kind of tones that back a little bit. You still get the heart of Profondo. It still smells like Profondo with a lot more green spice, fresh green spice in the top. This is a beautiful fragrance. This definitely pulls compliments, and it performs above average. It's not quite the beast that Profondo is, but I personally think it smells a little bit better. Of course, I'm not going to throw a stone at Profondo. I love that fragrance too. And if performance is most important to you, and they smell close enough, you could go with Profondo. But if you want the one that smells better and you're willing to sacrifice maybe an hour or two, still get 6 to 8 hours of life on your skin, you might want to check this one out. This is really, really good stuff. Like I said, I would have been disappointed if this wouldn't have gotten mentioned enough to make it into this video. I was so happy to see people start mentioning it, because I love talking about it at every opportunity I get when it fits a video topic and so on. I love talking about this one. I love smelling this one because I just love this fragrance. Definitely get your nose on this one, guys. I think this is a better release than this year's EDP, which I haven't wore a ton. Where's it at? But I've worn it enough and spent enough time with it that I've decided that I just really need to enjoy this more and not rush. Sorry that took so long. Not rush to get a bottle. Have a decant here. Thank you, Sammy. As you can see, I'm getting through it. I do like this. I do enjoy it. But honestly, I think get your hands on this, because you can find this discounted a little bit easier than you can find the EDP. Try both. See which one you like. But me personally, this time of year, when it comes to Acqua di Gio fragrances, this is the one. So I'm so glad Instagram mentioned it enough to vote it in, because according to Instagram and myself, Acqua di Gio Profondo Lights, one of the best for spring. I'm not surprised this got mentioned. As soon as I saw the first person use this as their answer, I said, I thought to myself, I wonder if enough people are going to say it for it to make the video, because there's some people that are just sick of this fragrance line. And, you know, I like mass appealing fragrances. I like blue fragrances. So naturally, I like Sauvage EDP. You know, it definitely got many, many mentions, enough to make the video. This is probably the most well-rounded in the line. In my opinion, of course, because there is a lot of freshness, there is a little bit of sweetness, and there's a lot of spice to be had here. It kind of balances a little bit of all the different flankers. Obviously, this came out before the Parfum, before the Cool Spray, and before Elixir, but you kind of get a little touch of Parfum sweetness. You get some of the added spice of what Elixir is really all about, because Elixir is all about spice, and you still maintain a lot of the freshness of the EDT. The performance is there. It's a compliment beast. It's one of the most sold fragrances for a reason. For being a synthetic fragrance, this is going to sound strange, it's kind of a quality synthetic fragrance, because Dior doesn't do cheap smelling stuff, at least in my opinion. Even from their basic designer line, which is what the Sauvage line is, this isn't any of their private line stuff. It's a really good fragrance. End of story. It's versatile. It does it all. It can be your signature scent. And honestly, if I was to pick one that's built better for spring than the others in the line, this is the one I would have picked too. So I'm not surprised that, I mean, it seems to me more and more that the people that participate in this, they're not necessarily completely like-minded to me, but they have similar philosophies to what's built well for certain topics, certain seasons, and so on. Because honestly, this is the Sauvage I would have picked for spring too. So, I mean, really, all of them work well for spring. I'm wearing Elixir right now at the recording of this, as a matter of fact. So the new Elixir works totally fine in the spring as well. Very potent, spicy, woody, aromatic, beautiful fragrance. The whole line's good, guys. Don't knock it before you try it. Don't trust anyone else's opinion but your own. If you like it, you like it. And according to me and Instagram, one of the best for spring, Sauvage EDP. So this is that discontinued fragrance I was saying I was kind of surprised made the video. I haven't worn this one in a while. I did wear it a handful of times last year. I've yet to wear it in 2022. Not easy to find these days. They pop up at discounters here and there, and people will spread it through the community, and they'll quickly sell out. But Dior Homme Eau, this gem of a fragrance, this is a different balance of that Dior Homme lipsticky iris, that waxy, powdery iris that this line used to be known for. You get a little spice hit, kind of a woody cooking spice type of smell of coriander up top with some citrus. Heavy hit of that iris. It's woody, it's clean, it's very fresh. This is a great fragrance, and it's a solid performer. Not a beast, but not weak either. Great to dress up with in warmer weather. Man, does this go well with an Oxford. My black shirt, I'm going to have to hold it up here. My black shirt is really taking away from looking at the bottle. This stuff's great, guys. If you've ever had an opportunity to enjoy this one, you know what I'm talking about. I could see where some people may find it a little boring, but it's still iris at the end of the day. Iris is not a boring note in any way, especially when it's dominating a fragrance like it is here. But for one reason or another, it got discontinued in recent memory, even before the 2020 formula of Dior Homme, where they changed it to a more woody, iso-y super fragrance versus the lipsticky iris that it had always been known for. This stuff is really good for the spring, guys. I agree with these guys picking it. I was just surprised because, it doesn't get talked about much anymore. Only those that really kind of collect in some ways really have this fragrance at this stage. Serious enthusiasts, for the most part, seek out Dior Homme Eau, collect the Dior Homme line and stuff like that. So your average consumer doesn't care about this because it's not for sale on the market. Some of them never even heard of it. But for those of you in the community that haven't tried this yet, it's a nice fragrance. Nice is me being nice, honestly, because I think it's really, really good, honestly. It's a clean iris. Clean iris just bodes well in any semi-formal, semi-casual, warm weather situation. Definitely a great choice for spring. I totally agree. Surprised it made it, though. I didn't think it would get mentioned as much as it did. Dior Homme Eau from Men. Now, this is not a surprise. A lot of people think spring. When they think spring, they think of this fragrance. When they think niche fragrances for spring, they think of this fragrance. It's the bottle's green. The theme is very green. It's Parfums de Marly Greenley. You know, it's very spring forward. Obviously works well in the summer too, but the greenery, the woods, the way the blend is, the apple, it definitely does well in the spring. There's a little touch of some fresh spice here without making it a really spicy fragrance. A lot of greens and apple up top. Green apple smell, but fresh greens as well. Touch of fresh spice, and like I said, a good bit of woods here as well. It's not mind-blowingly complex or anything. It's very easygoing and mass appealing. Performs pretty well. I wouldn't call this some crazy beast like Percival is. Percival is an absolute beast. I'm surprised that only got like 1 or 2 mentions. I wasn't surprised this is the Parfums de Marly fragrance that got mentioned enough to make the video. I was just surprised Percival didn't get mentioned more because it's such a performance beast, and it does really well for the spring also. But this is the quintessential spring fragrance from the brand, besides Sedley and Percival. That's the 3. That's the fresher fragrances, the mass appealing, enjoyable, easy to like, easy to wear fragrances from the brand. So, like I said before, no surprise here. Get a decant and try it. I had a decant before I got my bottle. It's definitely worthy of a sample. It's blind buy safe, but you may be disappointed if you blind buy it because it's not some crazy complex, you know, super high-end fragrance. It is very easygoing and mass appealing. If you like that style, you're bound to like this fragrance. If you're looking for something different that's you've never smelled before maybe, then you'll be disappointed here. But it's definitely a really, really good fragrance that's built for the year. I mean, hell, the bottle even looks like it's built for springtime. Parfums de Marly Greenley. So here's one that I personally would prefer to wear in the summer, but I could see why it got picked for spring. We have another fresh iris that got mentioned enough. Barely made it in. I forgot exactly how many, but this was like, if it was ranked, it would have been 9 or 10. It barely made it into the video, but it got enough mentions to make it into the video. That is Givenchy Gentleman Cologne. One that I haven't worn in quite some time myself. This one, you're going to get some citrus, you're going to get some greens. I want to say this one has a petitgrain note as well. It smells like it does in there, and there's a fresh iris. There's a nice fresh floral tone here. This is a lovely, lovely fragrance. It had some hype a while back. A few years back, this was super hyped up. Definitely a stud in the summer if you're looking for a green floral fragrance that's going to do really well in the heat. But because it's so green at the same time, I could see why people would pick it for spring, because a lot of things that are great for one season are usually great for the other most of the time. Though for me personally, when it's more of a green edge, I think springtime. When it's more of an aquatic edge, I think summertime. That's kind of where I would divide the two when it comes to fresher fragrances, because this works in both seasons, but definitely surprised that so many people felt the way I do about it, because I would pick it for spring, even though I have mentioned it in summer videos in the past. It's made a summer list for me in the past. I was just shocked to see it get mentioned so many times. Nobody, not nobody, but not too many people really speak of it. I don't see scent of the day posts that often from people for it. I'm sprayed again. It does smell really good. It's kind of become not necessarily the forgotten flanker, because the new version of the EDT, I would say, is the forgotten flanker. That's another iris version that's not quite as fresh as this. That's a little bit more of a soapy fragrance. That's kind of the black sheep of the line that nobody really talks about. And this one just doesn't get enough love because the darker fragrances are so good these days. The new release, the Privé, Gentleman EDP, Gentleman Boisé, they're just such really, really good iris-based fragrances that people tend to forget about the fresh iris fragrances that are in the line. People want that dark character and kind of get away from the freshies when it comes to these more, not necessarily complex, but more enthusiast level fragrances, I guess you could say. Because the average consumer is not going to be a big fan of iris. Enthusiasts are going to be big fans of iris. So, according to Instagram, one of the best fresh irises for the spring, Givenchy Gentleman Cologne. Next, I was happy that this one got mentioned enough to make it into the video, because I love to talk about this fragrance. I love to spray it and smell it. It's a big gimmicky bottle, but damn, it smells good. Paco Rabanne's Ultra Red Man. Looks like a giant brick that doubles as a stapler. Zesty orange that dries into this vanillic creamsicle smell. Orange creamsicle. Starts off zesty orange, dries into orange creamsicle. Doesn't smell super synthetic, performs really good. Performs really good. This is one of those slightly sweeter fragrances that I actually like to wear in the heat, believe it or not. While most people wouldn't think summertime when they think of this fragrance, it's more spring fall. Like, I could see why this got picked when I asked what's a great springtime fragrance in you guys' opinion. I wasn't surprised to see this get mentioned. I was really happy it got mentioned enough to make the video, but this is one that I like to wear 3 season. Obviously, you can wear it in the winter as well. It'll cut through the cold. It performs well enough, but it's got this orange freshness, creaminess that I don't think bodes best for the winter. Definitely better suited for the springtime. You need a little bit more, a little warmer weather to really activate what's special about this on your skin. I think your skin needs to heat up just a little bit. And personally, I think it works better in the summertime than some people even realize to give it credit for, because, like I said, it's a dense, relatively sweet and creamy fragrance, not really the kind of thing you would think to reach for in the summertime. Really good summer evenings in moderation in a climate-controlled environment. Really good in the summer as well. So spring, summer, fall, I think, are ideal seasons for this. But according to Instagram, it's definitely a great fragrance for the springtime. And I have to say, I can echo that sentiment, because it's a great time of year to wear it. Because you're not going to have that many really cold days. You're not going to have super hot days. Most days are going to fall somewhere in the middle. And days like that, climate like that, really make fragrances like Paco Rabanne's Ultra Red Man shine. Last but not least, I was not surprised by this one. Didn't know if it would get enough votes to get into the video, but I was not surprised to see it mentioned. There were others in the line that got mentioned. I wasn't surprised, because the line as a whole is very beloved. For me personally, it's a very beloved line. We are talking about Yves Saint Laurent. This in particular is YEDP. This got the most mentions. YEDT got about a handful, not near enough to make the video. I mean, if it would have got enough to be in here too, we would have had 2 Y fragrances. Y Live got more. I think it got 6, if I remember correctly. Nobody mentioned Eau Fraiche, surprisingly. Nobody mentioned Le Parfum. But YEDP, I forgot how many mentions it got, but it definitely got enough to make the video. It was somewhere in the middle of the pack, but it's a powerhouse. This is the most powerful fragrance in this video besides Sauvage EDT. Yeah, Greenley, Sauvage EDT, and this. And I'd probably say this is the most beastly of them, because this stuff is nuclear on my skin. Still has that green apple sage ambergris DNA that the Y fragrance line is known for, but it's a little bit more cloyingly sweet here. The cutoff for me personally is spring. I switch strictly to the Eau Fraiche in the EDT in the summertime, because I think this is just too much for the heat. I think spring and fall are ideal seasons for this fragrance. You get that mass appeal enjoyment. It's got the power to reach out and grab somebody in your colder evenings and stuff like that. It'll just work. It's not too synthetic. It's definitely synthetic, but it's not too synthetic that you can't dress this one up a bit. It kind of does a little bit of everything. Really fits the blue genre and mass appealing style as a whole. It's one that is very beloved for good reason. I mean, honestly, if you're just going to get one from the line, this is probably the best bet for you to get, because you're going to get the performance. It doesn't veer off much of what the original is known for. You lose some of that bright freshness. There's no aldehydes and stuff like the original has. So the brightness isn't there. This is just a bit more dense and sweet, but still smells like Y, the Eau de Parfum version. It does change a little bit, like I said, from the fresher ones, but man, they don't get much better than this. This is one of the best blue fragrances on the market. Honestly, if you're just going to get one blue fragrance, like I said, this is probably the way to go. Not just in the Y line, just blue fragrances as a whole. Stuff like this and Dylan Blue, I think, are probably your easiest choices, really, if you're just going to go one. Like, you've heard all these things about blue fragrances, and you're like, well, if I'm just going to get one, which should I get? Probably this one, honestly. It checks all the boxes. It's really, really hard to beat. It doesn't smell like every single other blue fragrance. At the same time, it's nothing super unique. but it performs really well. It pulls in a lot of compliments. It's known to do all of that for most people, and from my experience, it lives up to the hype for sure. According to Instagram, one of the best fragrances for the springtime. Yves Saint Laurent, why? Eau de Parfum. Well, first and foremost, for those of you watching that participated in the IG story question, thank you so much for contributing to the video and contributing to the channel, the support for the channel. I appreciate all of you guys watching. I really, really do. What in this video do you have? Obviously, there's some stuff that you guys enjoy that probably didn't make the video. And just because it didn't make the video doesn't mean somebody didn't mention it. A lot of answers to the question. It just comes down to scrolling, and literally I handwrite a tally as I see a name more than once. I'll write the name and I'll start to make a tally. And that's how I kind of gather up, all right, what do I have? What am I going to have to just do a graphic on screen and talk about? Which in this instance, it was only one fragrance. Last time we did this, I think it was two, maybe, or three fragrances, four fragrances, something like that I didn't have. They had to put on on screen. So I appreciate everybody that contributed to this video. Thank you so much. If you like seeing content like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe before you leave this video. Until next time, guys, I will say if you get your hands on any of these fragrances that were picked by my friends and family and followers on Instagram, and you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me on Instagram later. Have a good one, guys.